from the start of the Iraq War. I was driving fuel trucks in Iraq, supporting the infantry, etc. And that was quite an experience. Definitely one of the most impactful events of my life, I would say. It really made me think a lot about the choices that I make on a daily basis, and how our dependence on oil, specifically foreign oil in this instance. This dependence seemed to really start a lot of these conflicts, or so I was seeing, and I was not too comfortable with that idea, returning back, and that really these days this is really a big motivating factor for what I do on a daily basis. If you think about it, resources in general, it's not just fuel. If we could think about, the choices we make on a daily basis, like how many resources are we using just to do what we need to do? And even thinking about that, like car ownership, what does it cost to actually own a car just outside of just the fuel costs? And, how does that create certain demands on our lives that we need to make certain decisions and work in a certain way? Where if we, ride a bicycle, live more, human scale, there's a lot more possibilities with our lives. And I think in doing so, it puts us in a less vulnerable place to make decisions that might compromise our values. And I think that's ultimately what's going on throughout the world, is that we're making a lot of decisions that compromise our values, whether it be, purchasing oil from a place that is not really in line with our values, and maybe in some ways supporting activities that are not in line with our values. For me, initially, when I got into the bike thing, it wasn't so much about transportation, and it wasn't so much about lessening our dependence on foreign oil. It was really about me just getting out there, enjoying myself, and helping other people to realize that same benefit. But around that time when I was graduating from school, I realized that this is a transportation thing. That this is in a lot of ways the exact opposite of the type of thing that I was this ecosystem that I was participating in the military. And from there I knew that I could go all in on this thing and really devote, my life to, and that's really what it's been for the past, 10 years. 6 months later, I got a $25,000 fine from the city. And I was baffled. What am I going to do? It was challenging enough just getting this thing going, and having that fine. It was really difficult. So I made a bunch of phone calls. I had learned to be resourceful through the military, and really learned to, connect with people, and get the right person, to help me. And so what ended up happening, I called everybody that I could, but what ended up happening, I called the mayor's office of Veterans Affairs, and I said, hey, I'm a disabled veteran. I just opened this business and I got a $25,000 fine. They said, well, we don't give fines that great, in New York. I said, well, I have one here, and I got a call 2 days later, and they said, I think there was some issues with the paperwork. It's been taken care of. So this is the New York way sometimes, it's there's a lot of bureaucracy, but if you know how to, move around, you can make things happen. So not long after, they came back and gave me another fine. There was a lot of misunderstandings about the law, and it was my interpretation and their interpretation. And that time, I decided to not make any calls, and I went to court and actually beat the case and set a legal precedent that pedal assist bikes were legal. People have a lot of different opinions about business, whether it should be just straight business and not be about your passion, or whether it should be passion, or where you should separate those things. And I think that I tend to be on that side, that I just happen to be in a business that I'm really passionate about. And that could be really challenging. My emotions could be really tied to that. I mean, naturally, any business, you have emotional ups and downs, due to finance challenges, or whatever the case may be. In times like, COVID, it's even more challenging. But I definitely have taken some blows over the years. I think, in things that I had hopes about, this will happen. For example, the law change. This was a really big thing. Every year, I'm going to Albany, the state capital in New York, and speaking with the governor's office, and doing, some lobbying, which I had no experience doing, but this is what needs to be done, and just do it. So there's loads of changes happening in America, and we're seeing it mostly in urban environments where the need for alternative modes of transportation is really critical. You know, we have CO2, we have we have certain CO2 guidelines that we're trying to lower emissions, that sort of thing, and improve safety by using, modes of transportation that are less likely to hurt or kill somebody. Popular to contrary belief. Some people say, hey, you're going to get run over by a cyclist. I think the big threat here is automobiles. And not that I'm necessarily totally against automobiles, but they have their time and place, and the urban environment is not necessarily that. And I think it's challenging for a lot of people to wrap their heads around what the possibilities are. I think COVID changed that a lot. I mean, even if you think about it, in America, I'm sure it's happening really throughout the world. You have like these streets got shut down. You have restaurants out in the street and different things like that. And you hear people walk around and they say, wow, it's like Europe here. And it's like, yeah, it's not that complicated. We can make these little shifts and it's pretty amazing. We can actually see a lot of the benefits that these other countries have.